Hello again, everybody. It's Les East along with Brian Allee-Walsh from NewOrleans.com. It's several hours, 3 hours after Les. I don't know how to describe it other than it's one of the most stunning turn of events I've seen in quite some time when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, the organization, its football team under Sean Payton. A very misleading 30-17 loss to the lowly Cleveland Browns out of the AFC North. I say misleading because 30-17 is not really doing what the Browns did here tonight justice.
Yeah, nobody saw this coming, but and it's easy to say, well, the Saints threw 4 interceptions, 2 run back for touchdowns, that skews everything. In this case, it doesn't skew everything because the Browns beat them thoroughly in every phase of the game. They were better prepared, they were better coached, they out-executed them, and it looked more like the Browns were a team with Super Bowl aspirations and the Saints were a team just trying to find themselves.
Yeah, the thing that's kind of hard to put your finger on is that how in the world can this team that was 4-2 coming off a very impressive win against an inferior opponent in Tampa Bay a week ago, 31-6, beat them in every phase of the game. How can that same team 7 days later, after supposedly a good week of practice, come here and stink up the joint?
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing to figure because they've struggled a lot this year. They haven't looked like last year's team for the most part. Last week was the first time it started to look like, hey, they may be getting back on track where they can make another run. That looks a lot like the team of last year. And then to step back and have your worst performance of the year, one of the worst under Sean Payton, in that context is the most puzzling thing of all.
Yeah, a couple of things I think we should try to focus on, and we're not, Les and I have made a point during this vlog today, we're not going to mention any Saints statistics, any of them, because they don't tell the story. The 17 points is misleading. Drew got a lot of garbage yards. Drew Brees got a lot of garbage yards in the fourth quarter when the defense had a chance to make a stand and make a statement when it was 20-10. The Saints had just kicked a field goal, I believe, just kicked a field goal, and the Browns took the ball over around their 19-yard line, and 7.5 minutes later, they were knocking on the door, and they ended up kicking a 48-yard field goal that made it 23-10, and really just marched down the field and put the ball down the Saints' throats.
Yeah, well, that was the one phase, was the defense, where you could say, at least for the first half of the game or so, they played well. There were special teams breakdowns, there were the turnovers, there was inconsistent offense. But you're right, that's the one time they still had about half of the fourth quarter needing 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees can lead 2 touchdown drives in a quarter.
A good Drew Brees.
Yeah.
You know, and
not
a
the way he was
good
playing
offense.
Today. Yeah. The way we're accustomed to them playing, they could have done it. But in order to have that chance, the defense was going to have to come up with a 3-and-out, a big stand like it had done for much of the game. And it collapsed. It was almost, I don't know if it was like they were worn down from having to play so much, or if it just became contagious where every phase broke down at critical points.
Well, Les, you might think that, but when you look at the time of possession difference, Saints had the ball for nearly 35.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So this shouldn't be a team that was worn down by the Browns, but
right.
There are a couple of things I digressed. Is that one, they were out-coached. I thought the Browns were one step ahead of this team on offense, defensively to offensively, every step of the way. Credit Scott Fujita with a great game. Mm-hmm. Came back in a homecoming, 11 tackles, 1 interception, one sack. The guy just seemed to know, be one step ahead of the Saints' offense all game long.
Yeah, he on the first possession, the Saints' first running play, he gets in the backfield, drops Chris Ivory. Next possession, he sacks Drew Brees. Third possession, the Saints are in the red zone where they continue to struggle, and he intercepts Drew Brees. Now, there was a miscommunication there. Drew thought Liddell Betts was going to turn in and stop because he was under duress. Liddell kept running the pattern, and Drew threw it to a spot. Scott happened to be there. A little bit fortunate there, but Scott was all over the field. He was downfield defending passes. He was in the backfield. He played as good as he played probably ever with the Saints. And a lot of it not only was just the plays he was making, but it looked like he really did a good job of helping his teammates know what to expect and getting them in position. And also, we got to give credit to the Browns coaching staff. They obviously had a good game plan for this offense. They substituted. They were running 6 and 7 guys in and out of there, play after play. And on third downs, they were getting substitution packages that, for whatever reason, seemed to give the Saints trouble. They were getting pressure on Drew Brees throughout the game, and he had a hard time finding open receivers.
Yeah, and I think what they have done, perhaps, is provided a blueprint for the rest of the NFL. If teams already didn't have a good idea this season how to stop the Saints' once potent offense, they certainly do now. And a credit should go to Rob Ryan and his defensive assistants, Eric Mangini. They came in and did a masterful job. You know, now the Saints have to regroup and play the Pittsburgh Steelers next Sunday night on Halloween, Les, and that's a tall order now. You're looking at a potentially 4-4 team at the halfway point.
Yeah, you are, and that's going to be a really difficult team for them to beat. It's just, I'm having a hard time envisioning how the Saints would win that game.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen thus far from the Steelers and the Saints, and Roethlisberger will be in his 3rd game back now, I'm really having a hard time envisioning any scenario that's realistic whereby the Saints win that game. It doesn't mean they can. It's just I don't see anything coming from this team that would enable them to win that type of game. And one thing I want to point out is a lot is going to be made about the fact that they haven't played rookie quarterbacks, and now they're going to play Roethlisberger. They are 1-2 against rookie quarterbacks, but the rookie quarterbacks haven't beaten them. Colt McCoy didn't beat them today.
Managed the game. He managed the game well.
Managed the game. Max Hall managed the game, and then they beat Jimmy Clausen. But they've beaten themselves in those games. The games where they've lost to the rookie quarterbacks, the other teams have won in spite of not being able to make plays at quarterback. So that's the good news, is the Saints defense didn't really let the rookie quarterbacks beat them, but the flip side of that is now they got to play Ben Roethlisberger, who is a guy who's probably going to give them the best quarterback play they've seen against them this year, with maybe the exception of Matt Ryan, and that's coming at a very bad time because this offense is going to have a lot of trouble with the Steelers defense.
Yeah, that's a great defense. It's nothing like what they played today or have seen this year. Les, let's finish on this note. When Reggie Bush went down, this team was 2-0. Not playing well, playing decently on defense and struggling on offense, but they were 2-0. 5 games later, Reggie's still sidelined. He's hoping to make it back in for Sunday night's game against the Steelers. This team is 4-3, so they've gone 2-3 without Reggie. If my math, 2-3 without Reggie. And I believe that now is they're 10-7 over the course of Reggie's career without him on the field. This offense desperately misses Reggie Bush.
I don't think there's any question about it. I think he's been one of the most valuable players in this offense since 2006. I think he's oftentimes underappreciated by people, certainly not by people in the organization or by opponents. He changes so many, they can use him in so many ways, and he's so dangerous with his speed and so many little things. You not only have to account for him with more than one person in a lot of situations, but other guys, you know, kind of look out of the side of their eyes, even if they're not responsible for Reggie. They're kind of keeping an eye on him, like if he comes my way, I may have to help on him, and that may allow Marcus Colston to get a half a step on somebody. I mean, there's so many unseen subtle ways in which Reggie Bush creates problems for the defense. You can't really measure it. So that would be a big boost to them to get him back. I don't know how sharp he'll be the first couple of weeks, but just having his presence would be a boost that they need right now.
Okay, so there you have it, sports fans. Halloween night, the Pittsburgh Steelers on NBC television. My question to you, Les, is it is Halloween night. What are the Saints going to come dressed as? A Super Bowl contender or an NFC South pretender?
That's a very good question.
And with that, we're going to end it right there, my friend. For Les East, Brian Allee-Walsh, aloha, everyone.